Number one, does this look professional? We have to be super intentional to make sure we're creating professional environments. If your environments looks like I could have ran to like Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, or Home Goods, and created that environment myself, that's probably not like a professional experience. Okay, let's be super intentional of creating professional, well-manicured experiences. And create them to the culture of your church. I worked at Crosspoint, I mentioned that. Crosspoint had a very like industrial urban feel, much like this church does. And so when we created environments, we had to create them to make sure they fit that vibe. The church I work at now, it kind of looks like Anthropologie and the Westin had a baby. And so that's a different environment, right? Like, so now when I create environments, I have to create them totally different because the space that I'm in is a totally different environment. Create to your culture. Number two, does my signage make sense? I think that it's super important that your signage is clear on where people need to go or what they need to do. If it doesn't answer one of those two questions, it's just going to leave people asking questions. And the last thing that you want is your signs to make people question what they're supposed to do. Don't create additional steps for people. Number three, what doesn't belong here and what's needed? If you walk in the room and there's a random chair and a ladder and like some cords on the floor and a cable, somebody who doesn't go to your church or hasn't experienced your church, they're going to walk in and go, well, they didn't even clean up for me. Like, they invited me here, but they didn't even clean up. Now, I have 4 kids. You saw them. They are literally like the Tasmanian devils, okay? My house can be spick and span, perfectly clean. They can come home from school, and in 10 minutes, it looks like I live in a third world country. You have to be intentional to clean up. Make sure that everything is tidy and right so that when people walk in and experience it, we don't create a barrier for them, okay? Number 4. Focus on amazing details. I'm going to tell you all a fun story. At Crosspoint, we did this thing called Vision Night, and we would do it once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on what was happening in our church. And we would invite our top 20 givers or top 20% of our givers and invite them to come to this Vision Night where we were going to cast vision for what God was going to do next in our church. At the beginning of Crosspoint, it was really easy because that was like 6 people. Well, as we grew and our church grew, that became a large number, and some of those people were pretty affluent in our community. So the last one that we did before I left, we did it at a barn. It was super cool, and our pastor delivered this message about honeybees and the power of honeybees and how they work, and I can send it to you if you want to hear it. But the cool part was we bought these little 99-cent jars of honey. We wrote a little note on a piece of craft paper and strung them together. And we gave each one of these high-capacity givers a 99-cent jar of honey. In all of the years that I've worked in church, I've never had people talk about something more than that little 99-cent jar. That little 99-cent jar reminded them to pray for our church. It reminded them to send their check in. Again, the pastors all said amen. And they would talk about this little jar of honey. Now, the truth is, several of the people in this auditorium could have bought the company that sold the jars of honey. But that little 99-cent jar of honey was a small attention to detail that moved the needle for somebody. Number 5, is there music, lighting, and vibe? What's a party without music, y'all? Right? We're super intentional with the music that we pick for Sundays, right? The walk-in, the walk-out, the worship set, we're all very intentional with that. We could be equally as intentional with the music that we use on Tuesdays. Music sets vibe. Lighting sets vibe. You walk in this room, the lighting's a little dim, there's some haze, there's been some music playing. That sets a way different vibe than if you walked in and we had all of the lights completely up, work lights on, no haze, no color. That would be a totally different experience, right? You'd be like, wow, this is a weird conference. I know, but we be intentional. So I want you to be super intentional. Make sure that you use lighting, music, and vibe to create a really great experience. Number 6, prepare in advance. Don't be setting up when people arrive, and don't tear down until they leave. When you're setting up as people arrive, that tells them they weren't prepared for me. When you're tearing down before they leave, that says they didn't really want me here in the first place. Now, I asked Luke for permission to tell this story, so I'm not selling out my family at SALT. But last year at the SALT conference, 3,000 people plus in Nashville, This team works their tails off to make an awesome experience every year. 9 months of work. At the end of the last session, as everyone's leaving SALT for the very last time, there's a crew tearing down all the truss outside. In that moment, that 9 months of work could have been flushed down the toilet because somebody could have been like, man, they can't wait for me to get out of here. When if they'd have just waited 30 more minutes, they didn't put a hurdle in the way. Okay? Number 7, how would someone who's never experienced this before feel about your experience? Here's the truth. When you use the lens of a first-time guest to make decisions and create environments, you answer pretty much everybody else's question. Okay? Make it simple, make it clear. Make sure that when they walk in and walk out, the experience is crystal clear to them. Also, make sure your call to action's clear, your intentionality is clear, all of those things. Number 8, have you focused on transitions? And all my production people said amen. Transitions make or break your experience. I'm going to tell you all a fun story. We do a women's conference at my new church every year, and we had this like dope opener that was like dancers and black lights and smoke and acoustics, and we had a stage that went out into the audience, and we worked those transitions over and over and over again until we get it right. Here's the truth: if you get your transition right once, that's luck. If you get it right 3 times in a row, then you actually know how to do it. So we did this transition, and it was amazing. The problem is we used all of our rehearsal time to make sure that one transition was great. So Friday night, when I go home, I'm getting text messages like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing we've ever done at our church. It's so amazing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, we crushed it. Then Saturday happened, and we didn't rehearse any of those transitions. And by Saturday afternoon, we couldn't literally walk someone on and off the stage without them falling. Like, it was catastrophic. Make sure you spend time on your transitions. Get them right. Number 9, have you clearly crafted scripts and communication memos? There's nothing worse than giving someone a mic, having them walk up on stage and being like, go ahead and do whatever you want. But we do it every week. If you have not prepared the people who are going to touch a microphone with what you want them to say, how you want them to say it, what they're walking into, what they're walking out of, and what they need to make sure they drive people towards, you're literally playing roulette with the microphone. Nobody wants that, right? And if you can't find a single person who can speak clearly on a microphone, put them on video. Then you can edit them into complete sentences, okay? Number 10. Have we created wow moments? Now, here's the truth. When we think about wow moments, probably most of us think, I've got to have unicorns and bubbles, and I need a butterfly drop out of the sky and explosions. Okay, first off, that is pretty wow. So if you're going to do that, invite me because I want to come check that out. But really, a wow experience is just exceeding someone's expectations by a little bit. When you go to a restaurant and it's amazing, you walk out and like, man, that was really great. I've seen some of y'all on Instagram. You get that first class upgrade on the plane. You're like, oh, favor ain't fair, and you're selfieing it up on Instagram. I've seen y'all. I know. Exceed someone's expectations by a little bit, and you've created wow. Okay, just a little bit. Create wow. Next, is there someone available and trained to answer questions? A lot of times we forget this. We're in the business of creating wonder, but we should never leave people wondering what's happening. Okay, so let's make sure that we have someone who's equipped and trained to answer every single question that could possibly come. Number 12, have you cut any corners? Cutting corners speaks to your work ethic. It speaks to how much you're committed to what you're doing. When you cut corners, you're robbing yourself and your team of the opportunity to create amazing experiences. Don't cut corners. Number 13, is there a centerpiece for this experience? We've created a pretty awesome centerpiece right here. In the lobby, if you walk out there, they have that cool white cyc that they're projecting against. Really cool centerpiece. In your environments, create a centerpiece that people are going to go back to and talk about and circle around. Okay, it can be the centerpiece of a table. It can be an art piece. Whatever it is, create a centerpiece. Number 14, take a picture. No, just take a picture because you need. Twins is intense, guys. There's 2 diapers at a time. They both have to eat. Like crazy things happen when you have twins. And so as you look at this picture, Grace is on your left, Hope is on your right, and Grace is a super sweet kid. She just won the Courage Award at school. She's got the A honor roll. She's like a little bit of a blessing. You could say she's Grace in our life after Ashlyn. Hope, we called her Hope. And she's amazing. We absolutely love her. Hope was born unique, and so we've had some hurdles to climb with her. She's amazing. So that's my little bit of family. I'm glad you got to meet them a little bit. Do you guys feel like you know me a little better now? Enough that you can trust me for the next, 10 minutes? No. Some of you are like, no way, bro. Okay, but you're going to have to anyway. Here's what I want you to do. We're going to go on a journey, and we're going to talk about the first-time guest experience at your church, okay? I need you to close your eyes. That's where I need you to trust me. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything weird to you. I can't promise the person next to you won't, but I won't. If you hear someone snoring over the next few minutes, please, solid Charles Barkley style elbow to Instagram content. Take a picture because you want to remember what you did and be able to improve on it the next time that you do something. Number 15, are you working to develop an environmental team? We gave you a little card. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home, and I want you to learn what's on this card, and then I want you to give this card to one of your volunteers. And your job is to train them to create exceptional experiences. And then when you do, all of a sudden the level of excellence in your organization is going to start to rise. Then they can take that card and give it to someone else, and eventually it'll get tattered. Email us, and we'll get you a new one. Number 16, how do you follow up? What happens when people leave? Have you checked the links on your emails and your texts and your campaigns? Are you giving them a clear direction as to what you want them to do next? If you haven't, you're missing an opportunity. And then the last one, am I proud of this space? If you wouldn't put the space on Instagram, nobody else will. Okay? You should be proud of what you did because you worked hard, and it's a ministry that God's called you to, and he's given you the opportunity to get to do this. You don't have to do this. The truth is, guys, you're here at a conference today. That's really cool. You're here at a conference, and you get to be here and just chill and learn, and you don't have to dig a ditch tonight. That's really, really awesome. And your churches are doing something unique and special in your communities that other churches are praying someday that they get to do. So I just want to encourage you. Take this list. I hope it helps you guys create really, really awesome experiences.